Welcome back, everyone. Spring and summer is a time for new growth and taking bold action together. So we hope these stories can inspire you to live boldly, take wise chances, and with our friends and family, make a difference together. Today we will be reading A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne, retold by Billy Aronson. So as we lean in with the spirit of adventure, grab a friend, like Jade here, and let's enjoy the story together. Chapter 16, Unsure Shore. We were flung onto a shore. A raft came crashing under the nearby rocks. I would have been tossed back into the boiling, churning water if not for Hans. Somehow he caught me and carried me to safety. Then he laid me down on the sand where I found myself in the company of my uncle. My uncle and I waited beneath the overhanging rock as Hans returned to the raft to search for our belongings. The rain kept pouring. Finally, exhausted and aching, I fell asleep. When I woke the next morning, the weather was superb. And so was my uncle's mood. "We made it, my boy," was his joyous greeting. "You mean," I dared ask, "the center of the earth?" "I mean at the end of this dreaded sea," he answered. "Now we can resume our journey towards the center." I followed my uncle to the beach, where we found, to our amazement, that Hans had managed to save most of our supplies. He stood among these items, arranging them neatly. My uncle was so moved by Hans's work he could hardly speak. Time and again, Hans had returned to the sea, risking his life to save the things we needed most. Though he'd been unable to recover our weapons, the keg of gunpowder was still intact. He had saved our tools, and our food, which we had stored with great care, had also survived the storm. After breakfast, my uncle got to work trying to figure our position. He was to determine whether we were beneath our German home or whether we had perhaps made it to somewhere beneath the Mediterranean Sea. When he had finished calculating the number of miles we'd come, he was thrilled. Next, he took out the compass. If we had traveled due southeast as he had expected, then we would indeed be beneath the Mediterranean Sea. But when my uncle glanced at the compass, he came to a dead stop. He held the compass right before his eyes. He shook it again. He was crushed. Okay, my goodness. Just lay down there. Too disappointed to speak, he held the compass out to me. The needle pointed due north to the shore instead of south to the high seas, the direction we had expected it to point. I examined the compass myself. It wasn't broken. It wasn't even scratched. No matter which way we turned the compass, it continued to point north. Could it be? During the storm, when we thought we were plowing straight across the sea, could we have been spun around without noticing? There could be no doubt. Our raft had carried us right back to the shore we'd left. The terrors of... go sit down. Go sit down. Hey, go sit down. The terrors of the storm when we thought... During the storm when we thought we were... there could be no doubt our raft had carried us right back to the shore we'd left. The terrors of that sea voyage had all been for nothing. Every hour on the raft had been a waste of time. We would have to start out all over again. "So," my uncle said, gritting his teeth, "fate will torture me. The elements themselves have decided to beat me. Well, let them do their worst. Air, fire, and water combined cannot defeat the will of a man. I will not retreat. I will not yield. Let's see who will triumph, man or nature." Standing on a rock, shouting at the sky, my uncle seemed to think he was the hero of a great drama. I, on the other hand, was less interested in risking a tragic ending. "Listen, uncle," I said as calmly as I could. "There has to be some limit to ambition. Some things just cannot be done by anybody. We're not prepared for another sea voyage. Trying to sail 1,000 miles on a pile of twigs a second time is absolutely insane." I reasoned with my uncle like this for 10 minutes without being interrupted. Then I realized why he hadn't stopped me. He wasn't listening. "To the raft!" he yelled in a hoarse voice. I broke down and begged him to reconsider, but I was facing a will more stubborn than the storm. Once again, the good soldier Hans performed his duty without a second thought. He began fixing up the raft, preparing it for another bout with the sea. To give Hans time to complete the repairs, my uncle decided we should wait until the next day to depart. Meanwhile, my uncle and I explored the shore upon which we had landed. Clearly, it was a very different spot from Port Gretchen. There was much greater distance between the water and the large inland rocks. It would take at least a half hour to travel this distance. As we walked along the coast, we found our feet crushing shells of every shape and size. Among these were a few huge shells, 15 feet in diameter, which must have belonged to turtles larger than any now living on Earth. After about a mile, the shore became very bumpy. It seemed there must have been an earthquake here long ago, for all kinds of rocks were left in jagged heaps. Soon we came upon a large field covered with bones. Excellent, more bones! It was like a huge cemetery where generation after generation of bones had been left. I looked ahead and I saw that the bones seemed to go on forever, white heaps of them far into the distance, blending together like a sea. We were walking across the whole history of animal life, and every one of the creatures whose bones we found was extinct. An incredible museum crackled beneath our feet. My uncle's mouth fell open as he beheld this endless collection of priceless scientific treasures. He darted around, leaping from one pile to the next, and then he froze. He stood completely still, panting loudly. His eyes stared straight ahead. He struggled to speak until a few words spilled out from beneath his trembling lips. Axel, his voice quivered. Axel, come quick! A human head! Whoa, a human head in a prehistoric boneyard? I believe our journey has taken an interesting twist. And that does it for chapter 16. We'll see you next time for chapter 17.